Alright, this is the Department of Army Assistant Chief Installation Staff Management, 6th Army, Pentagon, Washington, D.C. 20310. Memorandum for Distribution, Army Environmental Cleanup Strategic Plan. The Army Environmental Cleanup Strategic Plan, January 2005. Alright, table of contents forward. Army Environmental Cleanup Strategic Plan, Cleanup Strategy Management, Issues Impacting Army Cleanup, Applicability, Army Active Installation Restoration, Army BRAC, Cleanup, Army Access Installation Restoration, Formerly Used Defense Sites, Army Compliance, Related Cleanup, Non-Durup, Army Special Installation Compliance Related Cleanup, Non-Durup, Army Remediation Overseas, Acronyms and Glossary, Figures, Forward. Alright, your Army Cleanup Strategic Plan. Cleanup programs areas addressed with the strategic plan include cleanup efforts that have been conducted separately under the Defensive Environmental Restoration Program or DURUP. Base realignment and closure and compliance programs. Figure 1 depicts the difference commonalities between cleanup programs and areas. Figure 1 shows environmental cleanup program. Defense to the left, the defense environmental restoration program. Compliance to the related cleanup to the right. In the middle, in the oval, would be active installation ERA, excess installation OMA, ERA special installation OMA, AWFCS. Defensive environmental restoration, military munitions response programs, formerly used defense sites, and the compliance-related cleanup, remediation overseas, and then base realignment, closure, MILCON, BRAC. Alright, in September 2001, a defensive site, Defensive Environmental Restoration Program. Guidance for the Department of Defense, formally established in eligibility October 17, 1986 for the sites restoration category of the Defensive Environmental Restoration Program. Statutory constraints on the funding and activities created by the organizational divide between the cleanup of associated past activities, restoration, and cleanup contamination that occurred in sites' eligibility date with compliance as a result, inconsistent in some cases, duplicated management processes, and resource impaired efficiency. Otherwise, similar cleanup programs. April 2003, the Assistant Secretary of the Army Installation Environmental issued the AEC. Alright, directed by Army staff of the Management Cleanup Program under the unified vision of the overarching strategy. In addition, Army to detail the management and cleanup efforts for the installation funded with the work capital funds at overseas facilities would similarly gain efficiency accountability by exclusion under the AECS. To the end of the Army to develop cleanup of the overarching object of the unified strategy, environmental cleanup. Our program and budgeting. Identification requirements, execution, Army environmental cleanup must be continued with the mandate managed according to the discrete funding mechanisms associated with each of the cleanup program area. According to the program manager, the responsible for the participating program budgeting respective portions of the Army environmental cleanup program. Using the U.S. Army Environmental Center, is the program manager for the Active Access Army National Guard Installation Restoration Program, which is funded by the Army through Environmental Restoration Army account. BRA, the Base Realignment Closure Division, and the ACISM's Office to the Program Manager responsible for the base realignment and closure installation cleanup of the non-ER eligible cleanup. Army Access Installation, U.S. Army Corps Engineers is the program manager responsible for executing formerly used defense sites or FUDs programs usually funded by the Environmental Restoration Formerly Used Defense Sites accounts or program budget office of Secretary of Defense. This shows your program management plan preparation. Installation Management Agency is the program manager responsible for compliance-related cleanup using funds of the Operation Maintenance Army Reserves account, and to include the funding of the expanded overseas Army National Guard. Is the program manager for responsible for compliance-related cleanup in the Army National Guard facility using funding of the Operation Maintenance National Guard account, funded account during development requirements passed from Installation Management Agency and the Army National Guard via the Army Environmental Database for compliance-related cleanup for the validated requirements occur with the Army's ACSIM. Alright, Army Major Commands continue with the oversee industrial special installation responsible for compliance-related cleanup at the installation under the command with the compliance related with the cleanup in project special installation fund with the various mission Army working capital fund. Operations are largely dependent on the mission area activities caused by the contamination. Alright, cleanup strategy and management. We're going to take a slight break. Alright, cleanup strategy management. The Army will implement the AECS, the Army Environmental Cleanup Strategy, in alignment with the mission priorities of the ISO 14001. Process is depicted. Figure 2 of the process entails 5 steps that are described below. Inner portion figure depicts the organizational roles, who, what, when, where, why, how, and frequency updates of the various parts of the Army Environmental Cleanup Strategy. Environmental Strategy Headquarters in alignment with the Army Secretary, Army staff developed a comprehensive study. The Army Environmental Cleanup Strategy encompasses all cleanup programs areas under the Unified Vision overarching area objectives. Strategy development occurred with the Constellation Program Managed Cleanup Program Area Strategic Plan represents the framework. Environmental Cleanup Strategy implementation incorporates ISO 14001 Principle Continual Improvement. Planning program managers for each of the cleanup program are established guidance for the procedure for the implementing strategy of the strategic plan within their respective program in consultation with the headquarters Army staff of the relevant installation USA's district guidance procedure for the published for the program management plan or map included the direction and concern of the program management plan or management plan, the preparation for use of the Installation USA's district project managers. Strategic stakeholders must provide input with the Army project manager. The project managers also prepare input with the programming budget as described earlier. Implementation, operation, installation, U.S. district, execute the cleanup according to the guidance for the procedure restrictive of the program area, consulting, coordinate with the federal state regulator for the cleanup process. Public members restoration advisory board. Provide assistance, advice concerning the cleanup process to improve the accountability of the personal responsibility individually designated with each of the site with the ensure milestones are established and scheduled or archived for many of the individual's annual performance and appraisals are directly related to the achieving the site with schedules. Ultimate site closure. Figure 2 shows the cleanup strategy management with continual improvement with the environmental and planning, implementing operation, checking, corrective action management, review, and then mission priorities, who, what, when, where, why, and how. Frequency updated enduring program operation management cycle, program operation cycle more frequently, annually. And then the mission priorities would go strategy, strategic plan, program management, management action plan, reporting, management review. Checking and corrective action. Program managers check and clean up the execution of active targets, make the correction as necessary. For example, if the targets are not met, the program manager may recommend a resource management change in planning program or budgeting preparation, cleanup budget process, management review. The Army Secretariat, headquarters Army staff will review the cleanup process to consider improving the Army environmental cleanup strategy in the strategic plan. As well as necessary for the resource management as changes are required. issuing impact Army cleanup. Several problematic with technical legal issues present significant challenge for the executing of Army environmental cleanup program in accordance with the established object of the target. With the most significant issue facing cleanup are described. The DoD formally created with the Military Munitions Response Program category in 2001, addressing the response of the UXO, DMM, and MC on the other operation range. This was a new program installed by the base realignment and closure and funds formerly used defense sites. Actions in accordance with explosives have gone on for years. Army's environmental with the Military Munitions Response Program site was completed in December 2003. Completing the inventory site now allowed for the Army to program, budget, and address the Military Munitions Response Program sites that is posed to threat to human health and safety environment. In the 2004, DoD established military munitions response goals, completing preliminary assessments by end of fiscal year 2007, completing all site inspections, end of fiscal year 2010, executing military munitions category response active installations over the next few years. Fiscal years from 2006 to 10 will be challenged for the Army. The Defense Environmental Restoration Program eligible cleanup activity in excess of the installation Army plan. Army Installation Restoration Program, beginning with the Military Munitions Response Program, will maintain overall stable funding profile of about $400 million annually, adjusted for the inflation. Army expects to be the DoD goal, having the remedy in place with being response completed with the IRP. Installation Restoration Program sites 2014 will continue to work with the DoD to establish realistic goals of the Military Munitions Response Program. This section of the maintenance land with the land use controls remains a significant issue for the cleanup site from around the country. Regulators, local developers, increase with them want permanent remedy for the imposition of no restriction on use, especially on those properties involved with military munitions. In some cases, it may not be technologically feasible to clean owners' restricted use. Additionally, it may not be legally required nor make sense in overall context of cleanup. For example, the Army should not normally plan to clean unrestricted use of the site where their future use is for industrial purposes. In this case, the land use controls is active for the installation of the restrictions should be incorporated with the installation master plan. Land use restrictions also are important with the formerly used defense site. The Army no longer owns the property, and property being transferred from the Army. The Army must go through land use controls imposed on the Army cleanup documents with it being transferred, with the Army using the outline appropriate transfer documents. So transferees or transferors are aware of restrictions must be maintained. In the case of the Army, you have the deed restriction. You've memorialized land use controls imposed in transferring sites. Alright, potential reduction of the maximum contamination level for the trichloroethanol ethanol could have the dramatic effect with the Army cleanup program. The trichloroethanol ethanol maximum content level is determined to be applicable, relevant, and appropriate with requirements as applicable and applicable relevant requirements for cleanup. Existing cleanup setups addressing the trichloroethanol contamination typically have been designed for the maximum contamination level. Potential changes in cancer slope factors of the trichloroethanol and maybe the Environmental Protection Agency to propose the most stringent maximum contamination level or require more detailed evaluation of trichloroethanol vapors mitigation occupied buildings for vapor intrusion pathway. Revised risk assessment will be over and ordered a magnitude more restrictive at the present time. The applicable relevant applicable requirement of the typical frozen at the time of the record of decision signature. New modified requirement may call the question the protective and selected remedy during the 5-year requiring existing site risk over them needs to be evaluated. Maximum contamination level to reduce. Which shows trichlor and ethanol was solvent and widespread use for the Department of Defense, the private industry. Reduction of maximum contamination level may have the dramatic effect for the Army cleanup program. Alright, significant regulatory public pressure continues to build up addressing site potential contaminated with perchlorate with the underregulated emergent chemicals, widespread pyrotechnic training devices, rocket motors has caused potential contamination number of issues in the formerly used defense sites. As yet uncaused cleanup of the Environmental Protection Agency has noticed for the maximum contamination level of perchlorate. Although some states have begun the process, the National Academy of Science convened external panel to address the scientific question of the perchlorate, but did not address the policy issued by involved with the setting of the maximum contamination level. Meanwhile, the Army has issued policy addressing sample analysis where perchlorate release is unsuspected, where complete human access exposure pathway is likely to exist. Alright, applicability. The strategic plan does not apply with the clean efforts of the USA's Army, Civil Works, or dams or locks, etc. Formerly used sites, remedial action program for other federal agencies, formerly some private sites and priority to the DoD. One of the two more contributed to the site contamination is thus considered the potential responsible party. However, the Army strategic plan objectives targets cleaning up the personal responsible party sites as beyond the scope of the strategic plan are cleanup efforts associated with the Army wartime operation on federally owned National Guard facilities that are not supported with federally funds. Alright, Army activation, investment, installation restoration. Background. The active installation restoration program was established response to the contamination of the active installation funded Army Environmental Restoration Program, and the program addressed the contamination best practice, including sites succeed with its October 17, 1986 eligibility date for the Army initiated response activities under the Defensive Environmental Restoration Program. The eligible date was September 1st, 2001. The Defensive Environmental Restoration Program management guidance, but it does not address the contamination caused by current and ongoing incident operations. Program to several statutes, regulations of active installation restoration program, most notable the DURAP and the Circular RCRA, Executive Order 12580 and 13016, Department of Defense Directive 4715.7, and the Defensive Environmental Restoration Program Management Guidance, AR 201, and the Environmental Cleanup Strategy, Investment programs. From the beginning of the program of the 1980 through the fiscal year of 2004, the Army addressed 9,685 potential contaminated sites at 1,169 active installations. On these sites, 8,804 required no further action due to site characterization revealed no threats to the human health, environmental, no contamination pathway, the receptors, due to cleanup of the remedy process and achieve the response complete. The Army has spent $3.3 billion of program in the fiscal year 2004. Anticipate the spending of additional $0.87 billion at the ready in place or response complete at the hazardous waste beyond year 2012. Total cost complete with the installation restoration program of the included remedial action, operational long-term management projections to be $1.8 billion. The Army complete with the military munitions restoration response program. Current projected object of the memorandum then include the requirements of the approximately $400 million per year for the POM. Program operation objective memorandum of years with the intent of the DoD, the goal of having hazardous waste sites for the active installation of the RIP and RIC. Our mission statement of the Army Active Installation Restoration Program. The mission of the Army Active Installation Restoration Program to appropriate the cost-effective cleanup to provide property that is safe for the installation used to protect human health and environment. Objective target success indicators of the Army activation, installation, and restoration show the objective target success indicators as follows: objective target and success indicators. Show the problem to act address the imminent and substantial threats to the human health, safety, environment, protect workers and the public environmental hazards identified. Appropriate identification need of the command of the regulatory public in accordance with the established plan. 2. Conduct appropriate cost-effective efforts for the identify and evaluate where the necessary protect public safety, human health, the environment. Conduct Response action to address the contamination resulting from the past DoD activity with the maintain relevant and clean up information pertaining to document respiratory. Meet 2014 defensive goal of achieve the ready remedy in play for the response for the complete at all installation restoration program category sites. 95% of all the installation restoration program categories I have relatively risk sites of the remedial in place remedial complete by 2007. 100% of the installation restoration program category high and medium relative to risk of the remedy in place and response complete by 2011. 100% of the installation restoration program category sites and ready in place and ready in response complete by 2012. 2.2. Meet the annual plan activities projected for the Environmental Database Restoration Program. Alright, 90% of the actual versus plan actual activities are meted with the plan with the receive the remedial in place response complete. At all sites in 2014, defensive and green yellow, 80 to 89% active versus plan activities meet with the plan to achieve response in place from response complete. All sites at 2014 defense goal yellow. Less than 80% of the actual versus plan annual activities meet or project with one more site with the response in place, response complete by 2014 defense goal red. Achieved 10,123 out of 10,123 out of 2,432 total restoration sites. Response in place, response complete by the end of fiscal year 2007. 9,840 restoration in place, restoration complete by 6. 10,123 restoration sites were restoration in place, restoration complete 2000 fiscal year 2007. 10,043 restoration plan sites were responsive plan fiscal year 2012. Obtain response in place, response complete. Full number of installations 32 by the end of fiscal year 36. 76 by fiscal year 9. 101 by 12. Complete munitions, military munitions response program site inspections by 2010, 15%, 6, 25, 7, 75, 9, 100, 2010 development. Military munitions response funded strategy to meet programs. At least one hazard evaluation model munition response prioritization protocol applied with all military munition response program cited in fiscal year 2010. All hazards evaluation modes of the munition response prioritization protocol that are military munition response sites by the end of 2012. Response action fund of the address to implement public threats and identify the site inspection phase without affecting Army goals, completing the site inspection by the end of 2010. Funding needs based on balanced support letter, transferring greater goals of property installation, completing the military munitions response program requirements, inventory to non-DoD owned Army National Guard military munition response program site exists and reconcile Army National Guard. Alright, 2.7. Populate, maintain permanent document repository of the cleanup information regarding funding source of the cleanup information can be retrieved at any time of the day in the future. Comprehensive update permanent document repository reflects all environmental cleanup with all active installation. 40% of the installation will have the documentation complete. And in 2006, identified 70% of the installation have the document completed in 2007. 100% of the installation document completed by 2008. And the new documents had all installations submitted within 60 days of the receipt. 2.8. Establish fiscal year 2006 strategy to develop, maintain the centralized database, track managing land use control, created as restoration program response action, existing sites exist evaluated, end of first quarter of 2006. For each site with a geospatial coordinate with the scale, demonstrate scope of the project, same with the U.S. Army installation, geospatial information services program, the guidance of the DA, The DAIMIMD AR 21 21020 Memorandum October 16, 2001. Subject to Defense Standards, Computer Aided Drafting Design, Geographical Information System Related Technologies. Environmental cleanup liability information identified available to linking with the installation real property inventory. 210 for each side of the ensure the management proceed with accountability identified in place for the forecasting, attaining milestones towards the restoration in place and restoration response in place and response completeness. Program manager have the procedure, including periodic review, supervisory quality review to identify and resolve the issue with impaired progress. Supervisors reviewing are being held accountable success for the subordinates for the activity indicate. Identify effectual resolving issue could hire response initiate initial response completeness. Organizational individual to be held accountable for the performance appraisal of the other means identified at each site. R3. Comply with the statutory regulations, executive order, external requirements governing cleanup, anticipate promptly achieving the complying with the newly revised enforcement requirement of no fines and no penalties. Installation mission focus ISO 14000 EMS continually upgrade with the performance active of the installation cleanup program. Cleanup consideration include with the installation EMS and implementation plans. Installation cleanup activities complete. 5 years reviews are required. 5-year review 1000 complete is required. Identify potential program impacts, including funding requirements and delay to meet the established goals. Chemicals emerging concern indicated such as perchlorate for inclusion of the Army. Program budgeting, planning, program budgeting, execution system processes, and then you have your Army cleanup office. I'm notified within the identified potential impacts. Ensure Army regulation policy guidelines are developed with the framework of the environmental cleanup strategy. Recommended changes required by the Army Regulation 201. Update the Defensive and Environmental Restoration Program. Active Installation Environmental Restoration Program guidance within 100 days of the DoD Defensive and Environmental Restoration Program management guidance. Develop specific performance metrics that describe the program management appropriate for the accomplishing with the installation restoration program, developing an annual program management plan. Specifically, the metrics established through annual submission of the project management plan. Project management plan deemed by the Army Environmental Office, the NLT 15th of each year. 5. Plan, program, budget, executing, cleanup, and come up with the DoD Army the direction for the guidance validated the auditable document site at level. Chief Federal Finance Management Improvement Act compliant with the fiscal year 2010. Qualified audited plan received in the fiscal year of 2007. Unqualified audited option 2010. And financial management information collected, maintained, compliant single database record. Execute with the Defensive Environmental Restoration Program, the engineer regulation and appropriation of the active installation restoration of the DoD obligation. Expense objects, obligation targets, a quarter of 28, 55, 80, and 100% of the defensive financial accounting system. Over 5 years, 22, 67, 89, 95% of the defensive financial accounting system. 5.3. Developing strategy for the NNPL National Priority List Depletion Program first quarter of the fiscal year 2006. Strategy should measure the Army submission on the site closeout. Reports necessary to start with the regulatory listing within the process of the National Priority List sites. Include cleanup program and exit strategies of the IAP Installation Action Plan. By first quarter of 2006, Installation Action Plan workshops augmented with the develop a path forward strategies. Installation restoration program. Sites are way underway and incorporated in the official year of the events of the installation activity plan, action plan. Continue required to implement standard process for the proceed with introducing rigor, responsibility, accountability, management, cleanups, eraser. estimates of the developing costs and estimated with more accurate engineering costs of the RI remedial investigation feasible study. May not exist documents supporting cost estimate. Retain future audit with the responsible accountability addressed in the program management plan. 6. Develop cleanup partnership appropriate with the federal, tribal, state, local, territorial, host nation authorities. View state participation includes in the Decimo Defense of State Memorandum Agreement annually. State installation coordinate with according with a 6-step cooperative agreement. Involve the regulatory stakeholders in installation action plan development and revision. Regulatory stakeholders participate in individual action plan document development. Participate in environmental public association state partnership sessions, typically with the Department of Defense Regulatory Environmental Office of the Environmental Protection Agency region. Program installation supervisor reviews are aware of EPA and state environmental initiatives resulting in lack of cleanup related to enforcement actions, fines. Ensure installation fulfilling lead agent responsibility under Circular Statute 106 for the notification coordination. Studies respond with the national response trustees and national response and National Resource Inquiry guidance in the first quarter of 2006. Promote support public stakeholder participation. Cleanup is appropriate with the make site level. Cleanup is information available to the public. Survey community interested. Established with the RAB every 2 years. Installation determined with the schedule. Individual public stakeholders and national the National Oil Hazard Substance Continuous Plan with the Defensive Environmental Restoration Program Management. Main information responsible for the comprehensive environmental restoration cleanup. Compensation Liability Act cleanup information available to the public. Administrative record of the signal location installation information repository. An administrative record plus any of the other background available to the public at location near the installation. Support the development, use, cost-effective cleanup approaches and technology, improve the program efficiency, implement initiative, business strategy, compliance practices, incentive with the overall project performance and completion, implement performance-based contract 70% of the initial installation restoration program budget in 2007, 60% by the end of 6, 70% by 07. Streamline project program management, maximum amount of funding going to the actual remediation restoration program sites. Program management costs are less than 10.5% of the total engineering regulation. A program fiscal 2006. Program management costs are in less than 10% of the engineering report, including in program. Achieve return on investment of $3, cost saving and avoidance of the $1 investment, special studies, investment strategies by fiscal year 2006. Track Getwork, IAP, Workshop, PBC, Technical Assistance, NAC, report studies during semi-annual reviews. Cumulative cost savings and avoidance for the technical assistance or efforts for action reported semi-annual remedial actions, long-term management are optimized through application technical assistance contract evaluations. Lead initiative of the base realignment base realignment and closure and fund formally use defense site participation. Consider consolidated post remedy activities with the regional base with existing excess trades instead of the early termination. All projects, the LTM active of 2006 consolidated if the 20% of the RA with the LTM program budget 2006 obligated with the consolidated initiative, 40% of the RAO LTM project budget for 2007 and then consolidated initiatives Identify initiatives that are more efficient for the effective technology, evaluate project program management, implement as appropriate. 50% ongoing remedial action programs evaluate with the application initiative, more effective, efficient technology program efficiency, and with 2006. 60% of the ongoing remedial action projects evaluate with the application initiative and more efficient technology program efficiency with the end of 2007. The discussion of youth initiative technology is part of the management review. 9. Perform semi-annual program management review of the cleanup progress against established targets. Periodic review states sites and contaminations remains in place. Develop a schedule middle year of the year end NLT 131. Somewhere each year between the IAW, which is you're in accordance with the established schedule, and ensure the appropriate program manager presence, such as indicated strategic plan, semi-annual review, time learning, respond, or tasks as part of a review of identified defense and requires follow-up incorporated with the next schedule review. Reporting mechanism, we're going to cut the tape there.